It's almost 40 years since the Metal Gear Solid series release. And today I want to give you hope, and I want to give you a bunch of true facts. Lock in for some Metal Gear breakdowns. Right now, we're going to dive into the series and then also discuss the future. I'm not going to hold back on what I feel should be done. And I want you to also share what you hope is coming to the series. I'm going to be diving deep since it's almost the 40-year anniversary and celebrating it endlessly for the remainder of the year with you guys. All right. Very soon, I believe Konami will announce 40-year anniversary celebration. And within that, they will have a special game for all of us. The question is, what game is that? What is it that is going to be so special next level? Of course, everybody's going to have their personal favorites and the things that they think that they want. But I'm going to help you kind of decide the facts on everything that we know and love. The truth is, there's plenty of games that they can remake. 9 chronological games. They just finished making Snake Eater, which was a very well made game, but I do believe that they're going to change that, and who knows what's coming. If they're smart, they'll listen to this video, they'll listen to you guys in the comments, and everybody will give feedback. I don't need you to agree with me specifically on this, but I do want you to have the conversation with me so we can pretty much go down the rabbit hole to open up that door within the conversation. Okay, now we got the rules out of the way. Let's do it. So in recent years, Konami has put out volume 1 for the Master Collection, and it gave us 9 of the chronological games in the series. That is amazing. And I'll take a moment here to kind of show you exactly what that means and what that is. Okay, so you have the first 5 games releasing on volume 1 for the Master Collection, and those are the first 5 games. So you'll get part 1, which released in 1987, then you'll get part 2, which was a 1990s game, and then from there you get Metal Gear Solid, which was a 1998 game. Of course, Metal Gear Solid 2, 2001. And then last but not least, Snake Eater 2004. Those are the 5 games that you'll get just for buying the Master Collection. And they're doing a volume 2, which I have a big breakdown about and talked a lot about. I don't think we need to cover that. But on the bottom left of this image, you're seeing Metal Gear Solid 4 and Peace Walker. Those are the next 2 games that are introduced to the series. And that is very special because it only leaves 2 more games to complete the series. But what's funny is those 2 games actually already purchasable on every platform. In other words, before the actual 40th anniversary, you're capable of playing all 9 chronological games in the series. And who knows, maybe they do a volume 3 and give you a bunch of spin-offs, and it'll just be packed with spin-offs. I think they should. As a fan, I know I would purchase it. I don't know if there would business-wise, if there's much validity in selling that to players, but who knows. I'll be happy to enjoy volume 3 / spinoff. But the reason I'm bringing all this up, and the reason I think you should be excited, is that this is all done before the release of 40th anniversary. And the reason I say the release is because I do believe they're preparing for something monumental, and they've gained your favor. Okay, at least I hope they have. And I want to continue talking about that. So now that I think everybody's back on the bandwagon, just a note, I've always been on the bandwagon of Konami and Kojima. I support both of them and love them. And I never wayed from that, no matter what drama was going on, no matter how many people attacked me, by the way, online. I've always said it gave us a great series, almost 40 years of games together. They broke up, sure, but it's still been a blessing. And I still believe in that. So now that they have your faith, what's the next step? If you just pay attention to history, we can see what they've already planned. And the things that they talked about publicly, as I watched every interview ever, basically the producer also mentioned that, okay, we gave them volume 1. We want to make sure it's good. We're going to update it over and over until we get it perfect. And they've been updating it even to this day. There was one this very week when I'm recording this in 2026 of February. We put out another update. And so they care about making sure the fans get the best volume 1. And the conversation for that volume 1 was, we want to introduce the series to new players by giving them a chance to play the originals. And then once the remake was announced, they also mentioned this was the best decision to introduce new players to the series by bringing Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, because Snake Eater is an origin story, and they felt it was the best to get people engaged. And they're right. I mean, this is the best standalone game out of all of them. You can go with Metal Gear Solid 1998, which also was pretty much a introduction to Solid Snake, but that's a different conversation. So it was a safe bet, basically. And sure, Snake Eater was a classic. They didn't have to remake it, but they did. And then right after the remake, we get the Master Collection that we just talked about, which gives you Part 4 and Peace Walker. So my first suggestion and conversation that I want to start is, are they going to remake a game in Volume 2? Because it looks like they made Volume 1 and they said, let's go with Snake Eater. And that was in Volume 1. So within a 2-year span, they released Volume 1 with Snake Eater in it. And then they did the remake right after. With that in mind, now that Part 4 is being introduced, I think it can be a very easy introduction to everybody, because it brings back so many memories. And I think marketing wise, the flashbacks that happen throughout Part 4 make people interested in the series. And so there's an argument. Plus, Part 4 is the more modern game, so they can easily adapt it. For example, Peace Walker, Snake Eater was so easily adaptable. There was no reason to make a remake for that when there's a bunch of old games that they probably could have done and given us, you know, an easier in to the series. It's just my opinion. Now, I'm not mad at Snake Eater, but it was an easy way in because it was already modernized. They just upgraded the graphics and redid some animations and things of that nature. They can do the same for Part 4 and have a well-constructed game. And so, you know, do you agree? Do you want that? I don't know. I'm not here to sway you one way or another. I just want to point it out. I'm here to create and provoke thought, okay? So we're going to get into quick conversation about that. I do believe Part 4 is probably the highest demand for a game for a bunch of us. For me personally, it's one of the one I played the most, and you guys know every year that I'm streaming the game, I tend to play Part 4, even if it's just for a little while I'm doing my run through the series. And again, it doesn't need a remake. So sorry to say it. It just does not need one. And so maybe you agree with that or disagree, but that's how I feel. But I would happily take it, you know, and they can give us the online, which is the main thing I would want as well. but I don't know if that's the case. But it's a 40-year anniversary. What better way to close out of 40 years other than giving the finale of the series? They gave us a remake to introduce us to the series, and then they showcase our finale. So 4K graphics, 120 frames per second, plus online multiplayer. I don't see why not. And I love that. But to each his own, you guys decide, would you follow that trend? And this is an argument. We're sitting at the meeting together as a community. Okay. I don't think I'm right. And I'm only here to provoke conversation. And hopefully it happens, one thing or another. Let's go. Now I want to kind of be the devil's advocate here and continue this conversation. We're going to jump into Peace Walker. The reason I think Peace Walker would be great is because they're just going to continue the story. This is the reason why I think Peace Walker would be good. It'll be the most impressive visually because it was a handheld game. As you're watching in the background, the cutscenes were pretty rough. They were just, a comic book iteration, graphic novel style. But we're going to get high-end photorealism plus enhanced gameplay plus overall, this was a spectacular game. If you thought the Phantom Pain was good, just imagine this game with the Phantom Pain graphics and, effort for cutscenes and visuals and all of that. This will be next level. This game had co-op, it had multiplayer, it had these big boss fights, spectacular stuff that you could spend endless hours enjoying. And so I believe this could be the way. And personally, I won't get mad at them if they went and they made this. And this continues like I said, the original story, which they gave us the remake for Snake Eater, and the continuation is actually Peace Walker. So yeah, I'm all for it. And you don't have to agree. Again, I'm not here to act like I'm right or wrong. But that's another argument that Konami can say. It's like, hey, we introduced them to Snake Eater. Let's continue this Metal Gear resurrection by bringing back Peace Walker. Right? Right? Right. So those are conversation starters. And that's something personally that I can see them wanting to do and figure out for this 40th anniversary. Remember, the conversation is about what will they announce on the 40th anniversary that will blow your mind and really set you off. And I'm sure somebody's in the comments already naming one game that I'm not going to talk about until later, because that's the easy way out. But I want to kind of go even crazier, deeper down a rabbit hole as I showcase a little something that you guys might be interested in. And it is, let's just say, very old. But I think, we can have fun with this conversation, and maybe you guys can agree or disagree with me. It's cool, man. It's cool. We're not here to fight. Right? We're friends. Be my friend. So let's entertain the conversation. The 40-year anniversary of this game that you're watching in the background. I remember playing it and I thought, what the heck is this? I liked beating people up, right? I was just a kid and just like hitting them, and it was a thrill to kind of like hiding away and, oh, he doesn't see me. Okay, I gotta go. I didn't even know what stealth was. I just knew that it was very exciting to play. And it was actually one of the hardest games I ever played as a kid. I couldn't beat it. I didn't understand where to go. I didn't know what to do. It was a lot, and being so young, literally under 10 years old. And then over time started like, oh, I get it now. I know what to do. I figure it out. I got a key card. I got to go somewhere. And so I figured it out, and I'm like, wow, this game's amazing. So many items, so many gadgets. The issue is, this is a old game, okay? 1987, you know, I was literally 5 years old when it came out. I didn't play it when it released right away, but that's how old I am. And that's how old this game is. And we're ancient, okay? In the gaming space, we're the old folks. We belong in the, you know, elderly homes, unfortunately. But I will say this was amazing for its time. And if they was to do what I wanted, which was I didn't want them to remake all these games that are modern. I wanted them to remake the oldest game that nobody wants to play. If we're going to be honest here, there's a very small amount of us retro fans that will play this old game. Not because it's bad. It's just so old that we prefer to play the graphics, anything with cinematics, anything with better control schemes and all of that. So Konami can do us the favor, and this is where, like I said, wholeheartedly, part 1 and part 2, the originals, and I'm talking about 1987 and 1990 games that are pixelated, that don't have cinematics, that don't have voiceovers, that are pretty much outdated. Okay, and I love this series. I'm not here trashing these games. Okay, you guys watch me play them, and I don't have any hard feelings about it. I just think these are the games to remake, and this is like really my opinion. This isn't about like making this video for the 40th anniversary. This is just my personal opinion. If I was owning Konami, I would say let's remake these two games because we can make good graphics. We can hire all the voice actors. We can bring in, you know, great motion capture. We can remake these levels to be more interesting, add different elements and all the cool gadgets that were there. We keep them and we add more to it. Let's really take this series to the next level, make it a special experience. So yeah, give me part 1 and part 2. And the biggest thing that I said about this is I can make that one experience. Okay, because if you remember, Snake, spoilers here, but Solid Snake's a rookie and he's being commanded by Big Boss, as you see in the voice chat here. And Big Boss is telling them what to do, where to go. By the end of the game, spoiler alert, you end up fighting against Big Boss, but it's really the one and the only, the Phantom himself, Venom, Snake. So if it's Venom, then we get to play part 2 as well, and you can make it all one game if you want it, or you can do 2, which even better for Konami. What I believe is what they could do, and this is my pitch to them, saying we're going to make part 1 and we're going to make part 2 simultaneously, meaning all the mechanics that we have in part 1 are going to be in part 2. We're just going to add to that because it is a continuation, and we'll go down that rabbit hole. And I think that's fair, in my opinion. Okay, that's just me. What do I know? I'm just some guy who likes Metal Gear. Okay, but yeah, that's where I stand, and that's where I will stand with this specific overall setup. So that's just me. And again, you guys can feel how you want and agree or disagree, but that'll be what I would like for the volume, the newest announcement for 40th anniversary. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, without a shadow of doubts, 100%, probably the most popular opinion about a remake will be Metal Gear Solid. And now Metal Gear Solid released in 1998. It was the first true cinematic, and it's what basically put cinematic games on the map. It's what brought a bunch of different mechanics as far as sound and even footprints and things like that the enemies will react to. Was special. Metal Gear brought it into the world in many different ways, and this was the one. This is where we got David Hayter as our voice actor, the greatest voice actor in my opinion. And then we also got Kojima at its finest with some cinematic presentation. It was like a movie. Now, don't get it twisted. These graphics are pretty bad. Let's be honest. In 2026, This isn't okay. It would be like, nah, next game, right? If you were just being a random kid who's 12 years old, like, what is these graphics? Is this 1980s? You know, it's too old. It's too outdated for the new generation of players. Now, I don't get it twisted. Like I told y'all, I'm an old man. I can appreciate the originals, but in the end of the day, we need it. We need a remake for this bad boy. And honestly, these mechanics, the traditional Metal Gear games, is what I loved. I loved over-the-top camera, fixed camera, where you're like not sure where to go. I'm used to the new ones, and I'm used to having full control, and I love that better. That's my honest truth. But the truth is, the traditional Metal Gear fans know that over-the-top fixed camera is the wave, and this is the best feeling of Metal Gear. But the facts are, this is such an old game. It is outdated. We need the modern version, and the 40th anniversary should easily bring this about. Well, just my opinion. I mean, I don't want to force you guys into agreeing with me, but this is another one of those that I can make a big case for. You can't name a Metal Gear game, and you can't name a lot of games that didn't take inspiration from this project. Okay. So for me, I definitely would love to see this get remade. And this is where like I want to kind of conversate about it, because I do feel Metal Gear Solid would be the best received. It did get a remake like shortly after its release. They put out, I mean, it was literally like 5 years and they made a remake, which was Twin Snakes. And I like Twin Snakes. Visually, it's way better, right? Like you can actually see their eyes and their faces. They're not just globs of, you know, pixelated grills. So Twin Snakes did a good job visually, but I do think we're living in 2026, and that's still 20 plus years ago, or 22 years ago to be exact, when that came out. So I definitely need it, and I want it to happen. And so let's do it. Now, what I want to talk about this is that the problem is we're in a modern day, and there's a lot of gameplay elements that will need some changing, right? And some upgrading and some better enhancements. And I think the fact that Snake Eater, when they had over the top as an option, I'm curious if I was to ask Konami to do the numbers, how many people actually played with the legacy controls, the legacy camera, and how many decided to go with the modern day version for the remake? Because when I think of this remake, I don't know how I would feel playing it the way we do with the modern games, right? The camera's behind Snake and he's able to free roam. That's the way I play a lot of games, a lot of third person games. So the conversation that I want to also have is like, what version of this game, or do you want it to be like Snake Eater, the Delta version, where you can play over the top, or you could do the opposite and just play it the new version? That's the question, that's the debate, and that's the conversation that I want to kind of bring forward. What you guys have personally for this game, over the top is the wave, classic feel. All right, that's just me. You know, again, I'm provoking some conversations here. That's the main goal. You know, it's not about right or wrong for me. I just want to kind of give my impressions. Now we're going to talk about Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty very quickly, and I'm going to just keep showing some like casual things in the background here. This game to me was one of the most special, even today, right? They talk about AI, it's pretty heavy duty stuff, and they talking about the stuff that's happening right now in that part 2. So for me, they nailed it. Like part 2 is revolutionary even to this day. I mean, all these games have a lot of deep, predictable things that are happening in our society, so I'm not even mad at that. But what I'm mentioning, and the reason I'm bringing this up, is because if they remake part 2, you're basically, and this is why I don't know if they'll do this one, because you're basically skipping Solid Snake's story and you're going with Raiden as a main focus. And the only reason I think they can do that without, going forward with the others first is if they're going to also do a remake or a part 2 to Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. Because if they focus on a part 2, the spin-off should come right after, in my opinion. So make a new version, continuation, and maybe Gray Fox or somebody, but just keeping the series flowing. That would be the easiest way for people to be like, oh, wow, they gave us a cool spin-off. We play as Gray Fox now and go into his storyline. So those are the kind of things that could happen. And there it is. That's the whole rundown of what I believe should happen. If you're one of those crazy people who love the spin-offs and saying, give us Portable Lobs or Metal Gear Rising remake, hey man, more power to you. I'm not going to argue against you in the comments. I probably won't even answer you. I'll just let you sit. Normally I react to conversations, but I just let you read it. There was one guy who was upset that they wanted Acid in Volume 1 and Volume 2. Shout out to you. And I'm like, man, I tried it. It was cool, but it wasn't like my favorite spinoff. Portable Ops is way better. I mean, Rising is way better. Those two right there stand at the top of the spinoffs, and then the rest are like, nah, I'll take VR missions over Acid, in my opinion. That's just me. And what do you guys think about a spinoff that already exists? Do you think they should announce that instead as a remake? I say hell no. There's no way you have all these good classics and you remake a spinoff, first before doing more actual good games. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the 40th anniversary. And what I want to kind of leave you with in these conversations is the thought of what was your favorite? Why do you feel like it deserves what you're talking about in the comments about, yeah, this is the one that needs to happen, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm cool with whatever. The fact is we are in good hands. Konami actually cares. And then I've known they cared, and I love their efforts, and they've tried. Okay. And they've tried and tried throughout these last 10 years of all the struggles of Kojima leaving. I've been there watching it, and I've been supporting it. And now we're finally seeing the fruits of the labor. And the fact is, I 100% know they're working on something online. I was disappointed with the online for Delta. I felt like it was just them kind of dabbling and they didn't put their whole heart into it. I know when Konami puts their whole heart into something and they're just like, we'll add a little quick game mode for this. We're not going to go too crazy. And that bothered me. And that's why I haven't covered it as much on this channel yet. We will a little later. We have some cool stuff. But I do think that for the 40th anniversary, we're also going to get that announcement possibly, or earlier. But basically that they're working on some online aspect for Metal Gear. In this modern day of multiplayer, live services and so on, it would only make sense Konami says, hey, let's put our chips in there. Let's see what we can get. And, I'm not going to push them too hard, but GO2 has been the most well received. They did the most support for that. They had in-game tournaments. They had survival every week. They had the in-game store. They had a whole bunch of stuff that made it's so special. All the features and mechanics within part 2, MGO2, it was good. And so that would be the last thing I'll mention when it comes to the 40th anniversary. And just to be clear, the 40th anniversary is in July, right, of 2026. I'm sorry, 2027 to be exact. So we're still super early on, and we still got a lot of time. So it's not like I'm, re-talking, but I just want to note this for the future. I'm gonna be the first one. I know you guys. There's a lot of content, Metal Gear creators who take all my stuff and make their videos and get inspired by it, which I appreciate y'all. Right? Next time, show some love and give me a shout out and tag me. I would like it. I like it when you guys, use me trend setting for the community. Appreciate it a lot. That being said, we're done for the day. 40th anniversary in a year, 2027, and I got my own special plans. I'm not going to mention everything right now, but we got some plans for 2027. All right, it's going to be a Metal Gear year, let's just say. All right, see you later. Peace.